Chapter 4: The Plan and the Challenge. The winds moving in the air gently mixed with rays of light emanating from the trees, grass, rocks, and soil. They were leisurely and at ease, playing as if there was no sadness. Sometimes they seem to be having fun, as if they are chasing each other, making the children feel the coolness and mischief of the wind, causing the hair to cover their innocent eyes. They brush those strands of hair back to their heads, and then continue to listen attentively to stories from their father. I was immersed in the wonderful memories of the space and the peaceful mood surrounding Nalas Nalanda and his children. Their peace and freedom intoxicated my mind as if I were again present. The words he was preaching to the children were listened to attentively by me. The space became quiet because he and the children enjoyed the calm, gentle, mischievous winds. Suddenly, I returned to reality, a feeling of regret because the scene was highly fantastic, while in reality I was trying to write out the knowledge from him, trying to convey it to everyone, and hoping for the people out there who are suffering in the human form to awaken and overcome their suffering. I meditated and thought about the journey I had gone through over the years, and it was full of ups and downs and pride. But above all, the pieces of his knowledge that I have spread, countless people have studied and practiced to overcome suffering in their lives in the human world. Disease of the mind have been verified by many people and found that his knowledge is truly miraculous. It can heal all suffering, from illnesses to suffering in life. Right now, I'm trying to unite all his excellent knowledge, making it the most perfect, attractive, and powerful in healing all the sufferings of the intelligence and people in humanity. With that design, I became like someone who was fascinated by his wisdom and compassion, and I did not want to escape from his wisdom and compassion under any circumstances. I wish always to be associated with that, which helps me gain invaluable knowledge from him and spread it to all humans to study and practice, because that is the only path, the only method to help the limbs mature and control the energy of destruction. For a moment, I returned to Nalas Nalanda's memories. I was delighted to hear his teachings. The wind seemed to want to be around him and the children, and they were constantly playing, sometimes gentle, sometimes naughty. I was trying to concentrate on listening to his teachings to the children. However, perhaps it seemed to be coming to an end when I heard from him. There are countless lessons you need and have to learn. I can only teach you the necessary lessons to prepare you before you transform into a human. The rest, you need to experience suffering in the human world. When you experience suffering in your human life, you will understand and become enlightened. Those are the lessons from the practice of human practice environment. A child immediately asked him, "Father, have you ever incarnated as human to practice and teach Tuệ-lins? If you do that, the Tuệ-lins will quickly mature and complete their human practice in the human world." I have incarnated many lives in human form to practice, to impart knowledge to the Tuệ-lins to understand the origin, task, and path to liberation from suffering. I incarnated as a human to practice when necessary, when it is important. He replied to the child's question. Another child immediately confided, "Father, I hope that when we are practicing in the human world, we will meet you when you also transform into a human. We will learn knowledge from our Father, which is extremely fortunate for us." Now, he just looked and smiled at the children. After that, the space became quiet again because the children were immersed in thought, as if imagining scenes of life in the human world when they were incarnated as humans. Then he told the children, "My children, I told you that I would teach important and necessary lesson before each Tuệ-lin incarnates as a human being. You have learned 2 lessons in the place where Tuệ-lins are nurtured and produced. Now I will teach you another lesson, which will greatly help you when living in the human world." The children become happy and they sat closer to him. One happily said, "I can listen to you teaching anytime and anywhere. I hope you teach us many lessons." I took this lesson from the reality of a human life that I practiced in the human world. It's called the plan and the challenge, he said, and the children immediately expressed surprise and excitement. "The lesson from our Father lives in the human world. It is wonderful," he said. "In my most recent human life, I was over 30 years old and had regained wisdom from the Tuệ-lin and achieved total enlightenment. At that time, many people follow my enlightened knowledge. In the first days of my journey of spreading enlightened knowledge, I taught my students to practice meditation. And many people realized the realms of meditation. And of course, I told them the dangers and warnings before learning to meditate. Besides, for students to have valuable means to help people suffering, I have taught them many methods to practice. I have created mantras and terms to solve different problems. Those mantras and phrases have encoded information and linked them to planets in the universe, where the Tuệ-lins are on duty to support the human world and directly connect with me. When they read those mantras or terms, the energy from within me will link to the planets and the people reading to support and save them. In the first stage of leading students to practice, I use those methods to guide people to practice with the knowledge of complete enlightenment. I have entirely taught them the do's and don'ts, but their compliance and listening to my instruction are not done correctly. One day, I walked with some disciples on a dirt road in a mountain village. It was already evening because we had been walking for a long time and everyone felt tired. So we sat down to rest on the side of the road next to the village intersection. A while later, one of my disciples came from a nearby people's house. When he saw us, he looked happy, approached me, greeted me and other disciples. Then he said with a happy face, "Teacher, I just helped that family solve the problem of demons in their house. That family was possessed by demons and caused many diseases, and life was in a lot of trouble. I solved it and finished helping them. I feel delighted, sir." "Sit down here and tell me how you deal with them." The other disciples want to hear it too. I asked the disciple, "Teacher, their family invited me through a relative to come and check and help because they often see ghosts in the house. Family members often get sick. They have to borrow money for treatment and not enough food for the members. When I knew that, I immediately agreed to help them. When I come to the house, I meditated and carefully examined everything around the house. I immediately discovered a demon and several ghosts in the land. Next, I used my magic to seal it up and not let them escape. And then I talked to the family members about what I saw on the land. They expressed fear and asked me to handle it so the house could be free of ghosts. Next, I followed the methods you taught me to send demons and other spirits to another planet, where excellent talent work and educate them. When I was done, I meditated to check and see that their house was free of ghosts or spirits. I told the family the outcome of the treatment. They were delighted and I'm happy too, sir. When I heard that, I told him, "You should meditate and check that house again. The devil and the spirits are still in that house and have not been liberated." At that time, his face became worried and then meditated to check again. After a moment of meditation, he opened his eyes and his face became red. The red color of his anger was present on that face. He immediately stood up, his words mixed with anger, and said to me, "Teacher, why is this so? Why can't they be liberated? It turns out that your method is incorrect. Your Dharma has no value. Why is that?" And that time, I smiled and I told him, "You want to know why? Please sit down and I explain it to you." When he said, I said, "You have forgotten what I have taught you. In the early days when I preached the teachings, I had to create methods to help beginners have a foundation of faith so they could pursue enlightenment knowledge. And when my knowledge was spread and grown more robust, I have told you that you must no longer use those methods to solve people's difficulties, but instead spread the knowledge of enlightenment for them to understand the origin, the task of human practice in the human world, and the way to practice liberation from suffering. When people understand, they will be the ones who will directly save the demons and spirits trapped in their place. And I said, don't try to be someone else's spiritual teacher. I will explain what you just dealt with and why you failed. That's the plan and the challenge lesson. It is a plan because when the human world is built, when the dwellings incarnate in human form, when going through lifetimes of practice, people will not remember or know their origin. Why? Because that is the plan. Those living in different situations will have suffering experiences. When there is suffering, the negative energy particle system within them will vibrate and create reaction with other energy groups. At that time, the toxin in their dwellings will be released. They need to recognize and try to force those toxins out of themselves. In particular, through that, I will find the best method to help the dwellings transform their yin and yang embryos, and they can control the energy of destruction. The plan here is that humans, while living, practice evil actions towards other species, such as killing themselves, killing animals, and killing others. After they die, the soul will not be taken to heaven or any elsewhere. They will have to live in the place where they died. It is inevitable because when they kill, many negative energy particles are produced from within their souls, which causes them to have information disorder and insufficient strength to perceive and move in the universe. Because of the evil they have done, they must undertake another mission. When they complete it, they will be transferred to another place to rebalance their energy before continuing their reincarnation. That is, they have to wait for people to come to the place where they die physically to build a house and stay in it. Those souls must find ways to inform living people about the world of souls, also known as dwellings. They must do everything possible to help people living on that land understand and believe in the world after people die. It will help people learn about the source of them and after death. It is essential to help people search for liberation from suffering to attain enlightenment and return to heaven. You must remember the suffering, illness, and poverty of people living on that land are not caused by ghosts. They are controlled and created by the negative energy particles they produced in their past lives. Suffering is not a disease that must be avoided. It is an invaluable asset to help dwellings learn lessons and grow. When people living on those lands have faith in the soul, they know to practice good actions for others, and from within, It will radiate the light of wisdom. At that time, my energy will take those spirits or demons to where they need to go. It is a challenge because when people are walking on the path of connecting to the source, to the tuệ to practice the method of liberation from suffering, they will develop the final toxins in tuệ themselves that will help them significantly mature, transform their original yin and yang embryos, and control the destructive energy. It is a challenge to comprehend the toxins in the tuệ of the disciples of those practicing the method of liberation that will show the level of enlightenment and ignorance in the tuệ. That is, to see if the disciples have listened to the teacher's teaching, such as intellectual arrogance, superiority and inferiority with classmates, even teachers. Hey, you, mentors or methods are created by me, and they are linked from the information in my yin and yang embryo to you and throughout the universe. The data will link to me when you read or use them, and my tuệ will directly process. But you mistakenly think you have magical powers and magic to dispel evil spirits or ghosts. That's why I answer that you cannot save the soul in that house. Why? Let them resolve it for themselves, because you don't explain enlightened knowledge. When they understand and practice enlightened for themselves and the soul where they live, those people will attest to my knowledge and continue to spread it to countless others who are suffering to practice together. That is the most wonderful Dharma, the ultimate method to save intelligent beings, tuệ and humans. When I stopped the lecture, he immediately said, "Teacher, it was my fault. I did wrong. I didn't listen to what you taught. I didn't even behave properly with you. I asked for your forgiveness." I forgive you, and I always forgive all your mistakes. Please remember this lesson and tell your classmates. Then we continue to return to our home. The children were still eagerly waiting his teachings when they suddenly realized the lecture was over. They immediately asked him, "Father, when we incarnated into the human world, did we have to go through the same environment as you described? Will we have the same poison as that disciple?" You will have to go through such situation, and you will develop the same poison as that disciple of mine. However, the toxicity level of each tuệ is different, so the reactions and beliefs to practice the knowledge will also be different. When you hear his lesson, it is the amount of valuable information stored and encoded in your yin and yang embryo. When you live in a human form, encountering that situation, this information will help you to control the toxin more easily. When you practice in the human world, you must understand that there are no magical powers, not even mantras. It would be the best if you focused on practicing good things to all beings with knowledge, spreading useful knowledge and good deeds to everyone, and constantly helping all beings. Doing so will help you quickly overcome suffering. The children immediately replied, "Father, we always remember your sermons. We thank you for your teaching. The last lesson has helped us have a deeper insight into the difficulties and hardships of practicing in the human world. We hope you will always guide us and show us how to overcome all difficulties on the practicing path." At that time, he smiled and realized that his children were much more mature in thinking and communicating. That is the proof that the time to reincarnate as humans has come close. After that, he and the children still sat and enjoyed the cool breeze that was both gentle and playful.